Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with another video on Action Taimanin. Today we're gonna check how to play with Ingrid. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So I have been avoiding this for a while because her renewal, Ingrid's renewal, wasn't exactly a way to buff her. It rebalanced her a lot and it kind of nerfed her, so that's why I haven't played with her for a while. Let's hope that Gremory does more renewals on top of characters who already receive a renewal, because definitely Ingrid and Rinko need one, an extra renewal. So let's see. Ingrid is a protect and demon type characters. Those are two really strong traits. But there's a couple things that Ingrid cannot do despite her protect trait, and we're gonna see that in a moment. So, what are her skills? Piercing Dragon is a dash attack, melee attack, 11-second cooldown, lunges forward and stab the enemy with a charge attack. Activates on the main and it says main green, increases damage by 12% for 10 seconds. Main blue, inflicts hellfire to the enemy for 5 seconds. And main red, increases speed by 15% for 10 seconds. Almost all of these effects are really strong. The blue is kind of not great because Ingrid, how can I say it? Ingrid is not exactly good at tanking, and the gimmick of Hellfire is that deals damage over time while reducing the attack of the enemy. So another problem that this has is that Ingrid doesn't abuse Hellfire. She has ways, like one or two ways to put Hellfire, but the enemy is not going to be drowning in this debuff and have absolutely low the lowest attack possible. It is unfortunate that Hellfire it's a niche that's not being used, but it is there. So then we have Evil Bloom. Evil Bloom is the pure red skill, melee attack, during normal attacks hold attack, 15-second cooldowns. During normal attacks perform a consecutive attack by stabbing the enemy twice. 1 red reduces damage taken by 50% during attack. 2 red attack, add 3 additional attacks and gain super armor when using a skill. 3 red, increase critical damage by 250%. So the problem with this skill is that you cannot interrupt this naturally. There's a way, and we're gonna see that. But these skills that lock you in place should be able to get interrupted just by, or cancelled just by hitting the evade button. So let's see what else she has. Blinking Ember. Blinking Ember is a melee attack, double dash, 7-second cooldown, teleports in front of the enemy and cuts them down. 2 green, critical damage increases by 30% for 5 seconds. 2 blue, increases damage by 12% for 5 seconds. 2 red, increase self speed by 10% for 5 seconds. So yeah, I never like when we have 5-second buffs, because you have just it is too little of a gap for you to actually do something. Sometimes the animation take too much while you get the buff and then you try to do another attack, so it is a shame. But I gotta admit, these buffs, all of them are pretty strong regardless of duration, especially green. As you can see, that's a 30% damage increase when you crit. Then Dark Flame. Dark Flame is a range attack, hold attack, 17-second cooldowns, throw a fireball that inflicts damage over time. 1 blue reduces enemy damage by 10% for 10 seconds. 2 blue double the fireball size, and 3 blue increases damage by 150%. This skill is actually pretty good, and it's excellent that this is low. I think that this animation that we see here, maybe it's a new one, but I think that it's advancing. No. That's about the speed. It is super slow, and that's an advantage for those who do not know, because this is an excellent skill to use against bulky enemies. They are gonna pass through, and each second they're gonna deal a ton of hits, so it's gonna deal massive amount of damage. For things like Queen Arachne, as long as you lock her in place. For things like LWS Squad, Queen Kanaloa, this skill is gonna be amazing. For things like Edwin, Mass Taimanin, and Worm Knight, this skill is not that great because those targets move a lot. They don't have their bodies are small, so they can just avoid this. So keep that in mind. You want to use this skill against big enemies. Let's see. And while the cooldown is very long, the duration is also very long, so it doesn't really matter. It's perfectly balanced, this one. Then, Absolute Incinerate. Absolute Incinerate is an skill interruption. You press evade, and then you're going to interrupt your skill. It's a range attack, 4-second cooldowns. Immediately cancels skills and retreats, leaving the trail of fire behind. 1 green, knock down the enemy. 1 blue, increases damage by 80%. 1 red, increases the range of burst by 100%. So yeah, this skill is nice-ish, but it's also an issue. Some skills cannot, as far as I know, some skills cannot transition into this. Mainly perfect dodge skills. Or basic enhancers. So that's an issue. You have to equip specific skills if you want to use this. And also, a pretty bad disadvantage of this is that you're using 2 slots to effectively fulfill a function that should be natural to one skill that you want to interrupt. Most of the skills are pretty fast, and you can do Absolute Incinerate just before the animation ends, and you deal an extra hit. But for things like Evil Bloom, it would be better if you could just naturally interrupt this and have a different skill, a different damaging skill. Honestly, I don't like this one too much. I'm gonna start with a build for this, but it is not my favorite. And fortunately, it's not a launching attack at the very least. And as you can see, it activates with every color. Then, Crescent Slash. Crescent Slash is a melee attack, hold the bait, 15-second cooldowns, perform a charge attack by slashing her sword, which bursts into flames. 1 green reduces cooldown by 10%, 2 green makes the enemy groggy, and 3 green increases critical rate by 15%. So this skill is pretty strong, really strong, and I mean really strong. Even if you don't crit, I remember the base damage. It's been a while since I don't crit, but I remember the base damage being good enough to equip this even on other builds. It is extremely strong, so you should definitely use this. Probably green is one of the best builds in my opinion, along with blue. And now let's go to the next one. Evil Hard Blast. Evil Hard Blast is a range attack. It's a perfect dodge, 13-second cooldown. When doing an extreme dodge, performs an area attack with her fiery blade and inflict damage over time by scorching the area around her. So yeah, you're going to do this AoE in the floor, and you're also going to hit the enemy with swords. If you go with 2 green, you stun the enemy. 2 blue, increase the range of the fire by 50%, and 2 red, increase the attack frequency by 70%. Obviously, the red is the best one, followed by the blue, but green is not something you should disregard. It's pretty good for PvP, because you're going to interrupt the actions of the enemy a lot. Then, Demon Swordsmanship. So, we get to the biggest issue here, the basic enhancer. So, enhances normal attacks to deal an area attack with Blast of Flames. One supporter increases damage, two supporters increases damage by 20%, 10, 20, and then three supporters increase particle charge amount by 50%. I'll get back to this in a moment. So let's go to the next one. Evil Flare. Evil Flare is going to be hold attack, melee attack, 18-second cooldowns, perform consecutive attacks while moving in and out of enemies, add 2 additional attacks when the slot effect is applied. 3 green stuns the enemy, 3 blue reduces the enemy's damage by 30% for 10 seconds, 3 red reduces the enemy's speed by 20% for 10 seconds. So yeah, here's the issue, that it gives you damage reduction onto the enemy, which isn't that useful because Ingrid is not a tank. I mean, you could try it, but you would prolong the battle unnecessarily to perform a role she isn't suited for. So yeah, the best one is the red, and green is also okay, just as a damaging skill. Like the utility for Storm is better on PvP, but yeah. Lastly, we have Sinister Flame. Sinister Flame is a range attack and melee attack at the same time. It's another basic enhancer. It says enhances normal attacks by mixing fire slashes between attacks additionally. That sounds weird. Increases the speed of normal attacks by 5%, increases the speed of normal attacks by an additional 10%, and increases particle charge amount by 50%. So, what's the issue here? Why is Ingrid not as good as she used to be? Because basically they separated her basic into 2 things. And to begin with, she isn't that great with basics. She lacks a ton of super armor. She gets interrupted pretty easily. Her basic used to be very fast, and it used to be basically this one. It was this, but faster. And they decided to separate it into 2 different basics. So this one is now slower, but it has that huge AoE and it's going to melt the enemies. And this one is faster, gives good mobility, gives a good amount of multi-hits, but it is a skill that you want, or well, a basic enhancer that you want to use on when you're facing one enemy, because if you're facing multiple enemies, this is not great. So yeah, that's the issue that I have with Ingrid. This and this, the fact that they had to put another skill so that we can cancel this, and it is not that effective, especially because you cannot pair it with basic enhancers or with Evil Heart Blast. That's pretty bad. So yeah, they should have given Evil Bloom the innate property to be cancelled. That's the only thing they needed to do. And of course, they did remove the launching attack, which is good. It's a good thing in the end. So yeah, let's see what we're gonna do with this character. So we're gonna be starting with this build, and I'm gonna show you. For the most part, I use the same weapons for all my builds. I don't have my Ingrid as strong as other characters. I'm still working on Hellfire Saber Worm. I do have the Momochi weapon 5 out of 5, but I haven't enchanted that one. The Viridian weapon is 2 out of 5, as you can see. And this one, the Ignis Blaze, is 3 out of 5, but plus 13. So this is the best that I can do. And this one, Ad Hoc, is actually 5 out of 5 plus 15. And I was pretty lucky. On 100 pulls, I actually got, I think, 2 Ingrids and 5 Ad Hocs. So yeah, it is strong. It is really, really strong. So now, let's go with this. I have Critical Megatemas, Ad Hoc, which is going to enhance my criticals on all my builds. And I have whatever Magatamas here. Then, for this first build, we're gonna focus on the one thing that I do suggest you do not focus on, and that's the skill canceller, Absolute Incinerate. So, since we're using Absolute Incinerate, I'm actually going to use the 4 slots. So, we're using Piercing Dragon, because we can transition into Absolute Incinerate, then Blinking Ember. We can also end by using Absolute Incinerate. And lastly, Crescent Slash. Because we don't need that extra critical rate. Instead, I'm going to equip a different supporter so that I gain another property here. And we're going green because the effects on green are probably the best ones. And now, let's check which are the supporters. For supporters, we're going to be using the following 3 at 4 out of 5. Pretty strong, really good supporter, but pretty expensive too. These we want on the main so that we can increase the critical damage actually. Then we're gonna use Kowaru, and then we're gonna use Pride and Rose. Pride and Rose is here just because she increases damage and she's blue. You could change this for other supporters. You could add, for example, where is she? Kirara, for sure. Or you could go with the F2P option by adding Lilim. It's still pretty good. There's also Heviko. Heviko is a great option if you have her 5 out of 5. And if you are facing one single trait, you can go with any of the big 3, you know. So, let's check very quickly. Do remember that I have almost everything maxed out in regards to PvE about the awakening skills, and that's why she is going to be dealing a ton of damage and also be pretty tanky. She is not tanky at all, but she's gonna be able to receive hits, something which if you don't have the defensive awakening skills, you might struggle with. Keep that in mind, guys. So let's see. So for this one, dash and I do this and I dash and double dash and then dash and then dash, attack and dash. I have to do a ton of dashes. There. So I was actually doubtful about doing this, but in the end it worked better than I anticipated, so I'm showing the build. I mean, obviously it's going to work. It's using 4 slots. It's a pay to win option. Usually my builds are only with 3 skills because that's F2P for the most part. Supporters are not so F2P, but in any case, there's always F2P options that perform pretty well. Then, let's see, come on, over here. Oh, don't move, Edwin. Okay. Dash attack. And I have a slow, which is terrible. I'm gonna use the active, and I'm gonna bring Asagi into the battle. Nice. Piercing Dragon, where are you, Edwin? Nice, done. Perfect. So as you can see, I still have a ton of HP, and that's because of the Founding Tree, basically, and the Awakening skills. Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, by having ad hoc, I am not going to be able to use my ultimate because ad hoc consumes particles. Let's see. Come on. I am not very good at this, as you may see. I'm not good at transitioning to all her skills. because I haven't used her in years, guys. I mean, technically I have used her, but not. I haven't been fully dedicated to playing her ever since her renewal. Okay. Oh, the slow. There. Okay, that worked. Yeah, basically, the fourth slot carry me, as well as the awakening skills um, and the supporter. Guys, remember that this character is extremely squishy, and I mean super squishy. But it deals a pretty decent amount of damage. But we can actually make her not as squishy, because we're going to start with green. For this one, we're still using ad hoc. As I mentioned, I'm going to use this one on the main, always, because, I mean, it gives me, first of all, a little bit of extra damage, because this passive that says each critical hit increases damage to all enemies by 30% for 10 seconds. That's going to now work always on any build. And this one, since it doesn't have the right stats, I'm not going to use it. Maybe I'll do a dedicated video for this weapon when I get 2 extra copies. So, for this one, the weapons are the same. The weapons are always going to be the same. We use Crescent Slash, yes, but we're going to use Piercing Dash and Evil Flare. So, this one is one that I like to use, because you just start with Piercing Dash to get attack increase. And it lasts 10 seconds, unlike the Blinking Ember. Then you transition into Evil Flare, and wherever you finish, you just use Crescent Slash. And then you go into Piercing Dragon. Or maybe you want to do it different. Maybe you want to do Evil Flare, Piercing Dragon, Crescent Slash, or Crescent Slash, Piercing Dragon, Evil Flare. But that's to optimize your cooldowns. Evil Flare, it's always going to seem like these skills cooldown lasts very long, but it's still pretty good. The damage it can deal, the fact that it gives you a ton of mobility, and that you just track all enemies, it's amazing. So, let's see. Oh, yeah. The supporters. For this, I'm going with a pretty wacky combination, but that actually works. So, first of all, the core is going to be Heaviko. The Heaviko combo allows me to gain attack and defense. So, she is going to give us attack and defense periodically. It's going to change into one or the other. And if the enemy is debuffed, I have a 50% chance to inflict poison. Ingrid has few ways to inflict debuffs. And if you notice, some of them are in blue. So what am I going to do in order to inflict the debuffs? Well, that's why I'm using Corporate Warrior Ingrid. This inflicts a defense down to enemies that are in your vicinity, in your aura, because you summon an aura that reduces, it says, increase damage dealt to enemies by 20% and burns them. This should be kind of the effect of a Momochi weapon. It's not defense reduction, but it still counts as a debuff. But one thing to take into consideration is that, unlike Phantasma, you won't see the debuff icon, but it counts as debuff. So that works in order to activate this combo. Also, Corporate Warrior Ingrid, as you can see, increases critical damage and reduces damage taken to demon type characters, so it's pretty useful. Lastly, we use Ichika to increase our melee damage and also to reduce damage taken from poison enemies, since we're poisoning all the enemies because they are going to be afflicted with damage increase. Then we're going to reduce our damage tremendously. So that's why we are using Piercing Dragon. No, Piercing Dragon. Evil Flare. So that I am able to hit all the enemies and that I am next to them so that they count as debuff. So this skill is super important for this combo. Look, I charge and then I didn't see it. There, I see it. Yeah, I have the mic in between. Remember that it's a 50% chance. It is not guaranteed. Even so, 50 is pretty big. So there we go. Oh, still alive. And you see how much hits I receive and how much damage they dealt? It is nothing, nothing. Okay, oops. And I'm going to use the active because I don't want to deal with them. And nice. Okay, that's bad. Can I? Nice. Perfect. Okay. I just need to do this. One, and there we go. Nice. Hey, stop that. 1, 2, 3, dash, and okay, almost done. Just about right. There. Now, what I need to do is that I need to inflict the enemies with poison. Let's start by clearing some waves. Then I'm also going to use the active to deal with them. And as you can see, I'm pretty tanky. Like, Ingrid isn't usually this tanky. This combo is particularly good defensively. Oh, come on. Oh. There. I just need... And a good thing about this combo is that I'm going to constantly deal damage thanks to the poison. Okay, nice. I just need to move. And there. Let's see. It's a little bit difficult. Like last time, it wasn't this hard. Active. Perfect. Did I beat someone? Oboro done. Okay. Ingrid's still there, and Edwin. And both are gone. Yeah, it is a little bit hard with the mic in front of my face, but I managed. Okay. So, yeah, as you can see, I received a ton of hits. That wasn't like optimal at all, but I did survive because of the whole damage reduction, and my damage wasn't low because these also gave me damage increase, all of them. So, it's a pretty effective combo. Let's go with a dedicated attacker. This one, no, I wasn't able to beat this stage because this is a build to defeat one single enemy. So I think that here on 94 we have a single enemy in the form of, 94 again. Oh, it is already 94. Yeah, I think this is going to work. So let's see. For this one, we're using the same weapons. We're using Crescent Slash, Piercing Dragon, and Blinking Ember. So the idea is that you combo these in preferably Piercing Dragon, then Blinking Ember, and lastly you finish with Crescent Slash. And that's going to melt whatever is in front of it. We use Suruga, we also use Kowaru, and we use Akane. Akane as a way to heal. You can also use Yuno, but I don't use Yuno in any of these builds because I'm using ad hoc. If you're not using ad hoc or also this one, Ignis Blade. I think Ignis Blade consumes particles. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You can do it. You can use it with Ignis Blade, but ad hoc does consume particles. So keep that in mind. Also consume particles, so it's not a good idea to use it. Let's see. Because you're never going to be using your... You see the damage, but you see that it's better for single target. You're gonna never use your extra ability of ad hoc if you equip Uno. Okay, nice. Unfortunately, this is not great for dealing with waves of enemies. This is particularly good for those stages where there's only the boss. So keep that in mind. Even so, you're gonna deal a tremendous amount of damage. And you can just eliminate the enemies pretty quickly. But you have to go for each one of them one by one. So let's start by... Oh, okay, that's awful. That was awful. Let's see. I'm gonna wait for my cooldowns. And then I'm gonna try to do the combo again. Okay, 1, 2, and no. That didn't work. Nice. 1, 2, and... Yep. And we use the active to kill. No, to heal. Why don't you die? Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Like that. That's the combo. Pretty easy to apply when you're facing a single enemy. Which is going to be on few situations, to say the truth. And the thing is, it also depends on critical. So you cannot use this on VR against, for example, Worm Knight or Master Taimanin. So that's a shame. Let's see. Now we're gonna go on to red. For red, we're gonna be using the new skin, and we're using Aneros to gain crit, Baretta to crit, to deal damage, and Yukina, because I'm not using the basic enhancers. Oh, I wonder why. So, for skills, we're using Absolute Incinerate along with Evil Bloom. That's the combo. Basically, this is the only reason this skill exists, so that we can use it with Evil Bloom. But, as I mentioned, not the greatest idea. Then we use Evil Flare to deal damage and also control the enemy. It is probably the strongest effect from all the 3 effects that this skill can activate. So the weapons are the same. Let's go. Here on this one, you want preferably to use the skill interruption whenever you're in a dangerous situation. Not that you want to use it just to deal damage. You want to use it to avoid damage. Like this. Nice. Perfect. So, in regards to dealing with waves of enemies, this is kind of okay-ish. It isn't the most effective thing out there, but it gets the job done. Because everyone is gonna get in front of you. So, oops, don't. So it's fine-ish. Really? Nice, Edwin, nice. Let's see. Come on, Edwin. No, whoa. Okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. Okay, perfect. Really? Okay, I just wait. The bad thing about this build, as you can see, is that it's skill dependent. You don't want to use the basics. You just want to reposition yourself constantly and use the skills whenever they are up. Okay, I'm going to use the active too to deal with the wave of enemies. And nice. Let's see. Since I'm not using the green skill, I don't have particle consumption, which is pretty good, which allows me to do the ultimate. If I manage to get into a safe spot. There. And as you can see, it deals a big amount of damage as long as you crit. That's why we're using, in this one, arrows. Now, I'm going to look at my phone and I'm going to check the other builds, because I have other builds. I see, it's just a few. And both are red. So for this one, we're going to change Anaros into another supporter, and that's going to be Prophet Eleanor. For those who were lucky enough to get Prophet Eleanor, this is pretty good for critical builds. And Anaros give you a little bit of sustain if you have it on the main, while Eleanor gives you a little bit of extra damage while you have it on the main. We're going to use everything the same, but skills. On skills, we're going to use, let's see, Evil Flare along with Piercing Dragon and the basic enhancer, the speed basic enhancer. No, Swordsmanship. Oh, well, yeah, actually, with this kind of build, Swordsmanship feels like it used to be, because you have 15% speed increase. So it's reminiscent. That's what it is. And for skins, I'm gonna be using this one on red. Yeah, there we go. Nice, nice, nice. So very quickly, this one, the strongest attack is basically what's the name? Evil Flare. Keep that in mind, and you want to rely a ton on the basics and repositioning. Maybe I won't be able to beat this stage. And if you have the 4th slot, you can equip whatever you want on the last slot. I suggest the perfect dodge, because that's going to help you a lot with dealing with waves of enemies. But using the pure red skill is not a bad idea, especially if you want to deal with the boss. But the basics are just good enough. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Yeah. Okay. I want to reposition myself so that the enemies get together, so that I can use this. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to use this and just do basics. Perfect. You see, the basics were strong when they were fast. And another thing that they need is super armor. Ingrid is lacking in the super armor department. She can easily be interrupted in some parts of her kit. There are others who do have super armor, and a good amount of that. And there we go. So first we deal with the mobs. second we do this, and third we use the active. Let's see. Oboro is done. There. So for this one we do need to use all our AoE options in the form of active of the supporter and ultimate, because while the basics are good, as I mentioned, you get interrupted a lot and it's risky because you don't have HP recovery. So be careful. Lastly, we have a silly option, but it is there and it's actually effective. I mean, it's easier than this one. So we're just going to change this for Whitefeather Asuka. Yep, Whitefeather Asuka works anywhere. She is not giving anything to Ingrid because she's not machine nor suppress, but she's going to break super armor. That's all she needs. Evil Flare along with Evil Bloom, and lastly Evil Hard Blast. With this amount of multi-hits, the enemy is not going to do anything. It's just disgusting and pretty silly, but I love it. Even though this is probably one of the worst characters you can equip Whitefeather Asuka, because it doesn't give you any of the two buffs, but it still works. It just works, guys. Okay, and I do this. Perfect. Now, for the next one, I want to move and there. You see how I deal with all the enemies? Because they are gathered together. There. And I just break his super armor and there's nothing he can do. And Whitefeather Asuka has one very niche interaction that most people do not think about, but she gives you HP recovery, which is very good for Ingrid. And there we go, it's done. You see how easy it is? Disgustingly easy. So yeah, even though she doesn't get anything from the supporter, well, she does get the HP recovery and the super armor break, but she doesn't get attack buffs. That's still fine. There. Oh. Okay. I just gotta do this and avoid an attack, any attack. There. And done. Yeah, that's the advantage of the tracking attack, that you can actually do the perfect dodge super easily if there's a tracking attack or a fire pit or a stage hazard. So yeah, pretty easy. I love this one. It is pretty dumb, but it is effective nonetheless. So now, let's see. For blue, I think that I only have one because I couldn't manage to do the tank one. So let's talk about that thing that it's not good for Ingrid. So Ingrid has access to one of the strongest defensive supporters in the form of Nana. But to say the truth, you don't want to do a dedicated tank build with this. It is just put Nana in case, like, I have all the awakening skills. Since most players don't, they can use Nana as a filler option. That's what I'm saying here. Because if you try to go full defensive and use maybe Akina along with Nana, or use Sakuya, wherever she is, Sakuya, and maybe you go with a little attack thanks to, where is she? Thanks to heavy core, thanks to um, Blackbeard Kirara, which I don't see. Blackbeard Kirara. Uh, it's still not good enough. You're not dealing enough damage. So only use a defensive option as filler. Here we're using Lilim, Kirara, and Aneros. If you are using the Momochi weapon, you can use Aneros for sure. If you're facing BR, you can use obviously Arabella. Using Lapis is not a bad option because you're gonna get damage reduction along with the speed increase, and it enhances your basics, which is something that Ingrid can do. But as we mentioned, her basics, though one of them is really strong and the other one synergizes well because it's speed, they are kind of not ideal. I haven't been using them on most of the builds. So yeah. Let's see. So these three are going to increase my damage. I'm going to use Evil Heart because this is an excellent damaging skill, to say the truth. Then Dark Flame and Blinking Ember. Blinking Ember because it's the one that gives me damage increase. Piercing Dragon, not as effective because it does the debuff, you know. So weapon is the same as usual. So let's test this. As I mentioned, this is better. This is a better build to deal with waves of enemies, especially in a small stage, and if the boss is bulky or it has a big body, that's gonna be great. Look at how slow this is. Trust me when I tell you that's an advantage. Because the slower it is, the more hit it deals to the same enemy. And preferably you move towards that so that the enemies follow you and hit themselves. There. And Edwin is in the other side. Nice. There. Okay. So like this, like this, like this. And where is Edwin? I don't see him. 1, 2, 3. And I try to deal as much damage so that I can break super armor. Yeah. And done. You see, this is why I say this one is probably one of the strongest builds, the blue one. It just deals so many hits with those skills. There. And I also use this. And here we go. Let's use that active. And I'm going to use the ultimate just cause. And there we go. Yeah. Really, 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 really strong. So, unfortunately, I don't have mix builds. I don't have builds with other weapons, as you see. We have received many characters lately that require blue enchanting materials. Let's see. If we go to number. Yeah, so this one is green, but Phantasma was blue. Lapis was blue. Inagi is blue, so that's why I'm lacking in blue and I haven't been able to invest on her weapons. I would like to show, obviously, I do have this one, 5 out of 5. This one is not great, I can tell you beforehand. Though the damage increase is big and it lasts 10 seconds, which is nice. It's 6 particles, that makes it really bad. This one is good-ish. depending on context and how you build it. This one is actually a very good weapon for anti-demon, and this one is a really good weapon for anti-human. And maybe it has other uses because, as I mentioned, Evil Heart Blast is not that bad to deal damage, and getting a 30% damage increase, or 60 if you have this weapon 5 out of 5, it's pretty good. So basically this character, well, let's check the weapons, and I'm not even talking about the SRs. So for weapons, we go here and we have Ingrid. So starting with the most busted weapon for F2Ps, Blue Lightsaber. This increases critical damage by 40% or 80% if you have it 5 out of 5. Must have, must equip, the best weapon for Ingrid. It literally rivals with the UR ad hoc. So please grab this weapon. It is just that great. Unfortunately, you're missing one Magatem slot if you equip this. That's the issue. Then we have, and this one increases damage with normal attacks to enemies with debuffs. 40% damage increase if it's 5 out of 5. Not the greatest weapon because the enemy has to be debuff, and Ingrid almost doesn't do that. And you have to use basics. The pack weapon, which looks nice but has a terrible effect. The Sakura weapon that you get with mileage. Skeletal Tartaros is bad, sorry, but while the effect is not that bad, the activation with 6 particles is atrocious. If this was 3, it would be usable, but no, it's 6 particles, so guess we're not using this. Then we have obviously the PvP weapons. The Momochi weapon. The Momochi weapon is actually not a bad choice for this character because she's strong and she's gonna crit a lot. And that way you can debuff the enemy and you can activate certain effects that you cannot otherwise. So it is something worth considering for sure. This one is super strong. We only get tickets on Christmas, and probably I'm gonna build this one next time that we this Christmas. It makes Ingrid a viable VR anti-demon character. Basically, any character that gets a Christmas weapon, it's viable against demons. It is amazing because it gives you damage increase and damage reduction for demons, so it's great. Then the SR that gives you damage against super armor. The ad hoc, let's read it. When you use Crescent Slash, greatly increase the attack range by 2 by using 2 particles. That's why I mentioned that you cannot ultimate with this. So it constantly drains your particles, but it's really worth it. The range increase is nice. Then, if there are enough particles, this effect will not apply. Each critical hit increases damage to all enemies by 15 or 30% when 5 out of 5 for 10 seconds every 15 seconds. Really strong, really good. Then, Draconic Fury. The demonic weapon, which is pretty bad, which we do not use because there is no infinite mode in the game to begin with. The snake weapon. I don't think this is a good weapon for Ingrid because she's not that fast. Well, she is a multi-hit attacker actually. She could do ulti builds and active builds with these weapons, but she wouldn't rely on the basics, but rather the skills, because her skills do have a good amount of hits. So it's worth considering if you like Ingrid. But I mean, it is a pretty niche build and you require a lot of specific things, so don't think that this is a good idea. It's just there, it's a thing. Then Ignis Blade. Ignis Blade has a 50% chance to gain Ember, which is a special buff. When using a skill attack, when you use a skill, then you can get up to 10 stacks. Ember increases damage by 3% per stack, and upon reaching 10 stacks, it explodes, deals damage, and reduces the cooldown of the cooldown of a skill by 15%. After the explosion, the stack effect disappears. That's something that I like. I like everything but the consumption part, because getting a 30% attack increase, because you get up to 27% attack increase. The moment you hit 10 stacks, you lose that attack increase, which is bad. But I mean, the skill cooldown is going to increase your damage and will allow you to cycle again into those stacks. So it is not that bad. It's definitely something that can be used. But I cannot test this just yet. Ingrid really needs weapons at 5 out of 5 because she is too squishy to not go full offensive. So that's why I don't test this. Let's see. Oh yeah, Hellfire Saber Worm. So this weapon I like a lot because I do like Evil Heart Blast because it has a ton of mod heal. Though most of the effects are not that useful, the damage it provides it's good enough for me, and increasing the damage is something that pleases me. Not to mention that this is going to make you super tanky and deal a lot of damage to human enemies. So Ingrid is able to hit 2 BRs effectively with the Christmas weapon and the anti-human VR weapon. That's great. The wood weapon, and that's it. That's it. So let's go to Ingrid and let's talk about her. If I'm able to find her, there is. There. Here we go. So Ingrid. What can I say about Ingrid? Unfortunately, though she is strong, she lacks HP recovery. That's a big problem, especially considering how squishy she is. You didn't see her as squishy because I have all the defensive awakening skills. I have good supporters, and I was able to just melt the enemy quickly enough and reduce the super armor. But she can just get deleted pretty easily. That's why people use strategies with invincibility supporters, like let's say, where are you? Yuno. I don't see Yuno. Yuno, Spica, or Shisui. That's also a reason why people equip things like where is it? Susune, or any other supporter that gives you HP recovery, like Akina. I think Akina, or Akane. Akina, no. Akina is the blue one. So the fact that you can only play hyper offensive with her is not a good sign. I mean, technically, yes, you can do a defensive build that she can be utility and she can go blue, be tank, and try to do something. But the thing is that, as I mentioned, this is the thing that's her particular debuff, Hellfire, which reduces attack. And she can also reduce attack with Evil Flare. And it's a very good amount of attack reduction, but it's just not good enough to go defensive and lose all your damage potential. You just prefer to go full offensive. And one supporter that I didn't mention that you can use technically is Noah Brown, just because by dealing damage you restore HP if you put this on the main. Though most of the time you're not gonna get the benefit of the main passive, this one. So that's why I didn't use her. But I know there's a ton of people who use this to give Ingrid that HP recovery that she desperately needs. So another thing about her, she's really good against wave of enemies if you build her properly, and she's really good against a single enemy if you build her properly. If you try to mix both things, she's not gonna perform pretty well, except with the blue one. This one is kind of the exception that works for both. But mainly you want to go single target or AoE. And, well, that's about it. Should you get it, guys? I mean, if you like her, just know that this is a heavy investment character, for sure. As I mentioned, this weapon is bad. This weapon is useful, but it's not like you're gonna use it in VR unless you have Ana Rose. And this one is usable, and this one is amazing, and these ones are amazing too, but VR coins and limited to seasonal events. So, I really wish that they had done something different for her renewal, because to say the truth, before her renewal she was pretty strong. She just had a couple glaring flaws, mainly the fact that you have to do the whole animation of Evil Bloom and you could not interrupt it. This wasn't a thing. They added this. They changed the I don't even remember. I think Piercing Dragon and Sinister Flames were different. You can let me know in the comments. I know it's on the website, but I didn't check it. It's been a long time, and it doesn't really matter how it was. But yeah, the only thing that really bugs me is how weak her basic attacks are now. Like, I can live with Evil Bloom, but not with these basic attacks. So, let me know in the comments what you think about this character, if you like it, if you don't care, if you have invested a lot on this character and you can use it effectively, and you know other builds that I didn't mention and other combos. And that's gonna be it for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Bye!